Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rising Tide podcast with Tara Barot. Today, I'm joined with Val Riquelme, um, and we're going to talk about how support looks like for her. Um, I
Hi.
forgot to start. Yes, hey Val. Did I say your name right, by the way?
Almost. So the last name
How
is
is it? How is it?
Riquelme. Riquelme.
Riquelme. All
You
right,
got it.
thanks. So, yes, what does support look like for you?
Mm, I think I'll take it two ways. One will be personally and one will be professionally. So for me, personally, I've grown up with a very strong family support network where I strongly rely, maybe now less, but as a kid, and throughout my teenage years, it was very, very important to come home and tell my parents how my day was and my sister. And now that I live far away from my family's in Mexico, but I live in Hong Kong. Um, but it was always a thing to give my aunt a call and say like, oh, this is going on. And we developed a sort of side track relationship where I knew that if I needed emotional support of X type, this was a person in the family I would go to. And that always was way stronger than friendship or romantic relationships. That was the foundation. And I think now it's beginning to shift a little. And I'm also making distance from these relationships because sometimes you can find support, but at the same time, it can be too close and then it becomes toxic. So it's a fine balance. But that's personally, and I'm the type of person who likes talking things out when I need support. I need to just blah for a very long time. So having people who understand the context of whatever issue I'm going through or the tendencies I have or the patterns I have for me is very important. Um, and so I would say those strategies have been my rocks so far. But professionally, um, the most important support I have felt, and this will sound cliche and very general, but we can narrow it down, has been beginning from high school and then after graduation and university, having people older than me in professional roles telling me that what I'm dreaming to do is worth doing. And they don't have to tell it in words, it's more in action. So, to give you an example, when I was in my last year of high school, I'm now in my third year of a bachelor degree. So, this is maybe 4 years ago, 4 or 5. I had an idea to do a one woman show. And it was part of a theater project, a school theater project. And when I graduated, I decided to take a gap year. And my theater teacher said, hey, Val, you know this project, it has content for more. You should do something with it. And I wanted to do something more with it, but I needed that little push of someone saying your ideas are worth it and what you want to do is worth it. And not only is it worth it, I will be there with you to guide you through that process a little, even if in the end I ended up doing the work. And this can be artistic, it can be if you want to start a company or if you want to do an NGO type of service project, anything. But it's just someone who you admire, who has a certain authority over you, telling you that what you want to do is worth it and that they will provide you the support, whether it's moral or advice, to make it happen. And those type of people, especially at the very beginning of, let's say, my career, because really that project was the beginning of my theater and film career. For context, for everyone, I have a theater and film production company. It's called Tinta Limited. I'm also a student at the University of Hong Kong, and Tinta Limited was born of the steps that followed from that very first conversation with my teacher. Because from that show came a short film, and that short film was only possible because I picked up the phone, and that person on the other phone, who was a producer, said, "Yes, okay, you sound like you believe in what you're doing. I'm also going to believe in what you're doing, and I want to watch it happen. Here are some contacts you can use." So it really starts with a statement, but then it is not alone. It's not only the words, it comes with a bit of a package of, I'm going to provide you some help, whatever I can, whether it's my personal technical skill, or my connections, or my space. It can also be financial or um, material support, not necessarily cash, but it can be like, okay, I have a gym studio and you want to do rehearsals for your show. Here, do it. And especially when people are young, having offering the resources you have and not being sort of selfish about it can really make a difference in starting someone's career, as it has done for me. So that's in general.
You say one thing that you said many things, and thanks for sharing. And I'll share a little bit also how we met. But
Yeah.
one thing that you mentioned was the thing that you find that very general. I don't remember the exact word you said. Common advice that older people believing in you. And from my personal experience, I haven't had that until much later in life. And so, and I see it. And now also with me, when I see other people that do show that, I'm there and I was like, you have an idea and it's worth like bringing it out. Um, I've always find that my thinking was outside of society's norm and people around me were more thinking in the box in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And until recently, when I say recently, it's 4 or 5 years, I didn't find people was like, yes, go for it, it's worth it. And I had to go to the US to find people from Hong Kong. I grew up in Hong Kong, been there a long time. So um, I think that when you do find that support system, those people, whether older or your age, that do believe in you, that's gold. Um,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned again and I did say it, that especially when people are older than you, but now I'm rethinking that. Fast forward to the my short film. My short film, which was, let's split my current status uh, professionally in three parts. The first part was the play, which was inspired by this teacher, and the second part was a short film, which is how you and I met. Uh, and then the third part is the project I'm working on right now. So when I was in the second part, the short film was actually inspired by someone believing in me who was 3 years younger than me. And he was in like 14 in high school, but he said, "Oh, but it would be amazing if you do it like a script, and I've written a script before, here you can use this template." So I guess it was someone who behaved like he was older than he was, but it doesn't, I would not separate support only into the category of adult child or more professionally advanced versus younger, because once you really, it's not age, it's experience. So if you have more experience in a certain area, like my friend who was 14 did in writing scripts, you can be equally supportive or at least he was equally influential and supportive for me than a 50-year-old teacher who also believed in me. So age maybe doesn't matter that much. But also, to link to your comment, um, you showing up at my screening, seeing people, seriously, like,
I remember your
support.
reaction. That's why.
You want to tell that story?
Well, I first heard about you through a friend, uh, Andreas, who was working with you on the film and helping you out, and I you just sounded amazing. And then I went online to check you out on Instagram, seeing the progress of the film and everything that was happening. And when the premiere happened and I saw it on Instagram, I signed up and I showed up because I wanted to see. And for me, I have an attraction also by the community building behind a project. When people come together to build something, and there's a reason why people stick together and build something great, and it's a people aspect of it. The project might be as amazing as you want, but even projects who aren't amazing can still have amazing communities behind it. And it's that
Hmm.
workforce, that mindset, that positivity that comes together to make something happen from nothing. um,
Mm.
and that attracted me to you and wanting to see the film, which I absolutely loved. And it's incredible to see something again. It's age, but sometimes surprising. The topic that you've covered, knowing that you were still young, but not afraid of covering a topic like this that openly, to open up conversation as a conversation starter, so that it
Mm.
wouldn't be in the shadows anymore. But just, yeah, give a little bit of like, let's talk about it. How do you feel? Is it uncomfortable? Why is it uncomfortable? Just whatever conversations come out from it. um and I'm happy I did.
Yeah, for context, the short film is called For Her, and it's about a character who finds a story about sexual assault and struggles with what to do with this story and how to tell the story. But really, it's about the difficulty of coming to terms with things that are difficult to communicate, whether that be sexual assault or any other form of trauma. And it's interesting that you mention the community behind the project. Today, I had lunch with my friend who was actually assistant director for the short film. Her name is Wendy, and we were talking about how shooting a film is actually a play in itself, because if you are watching a film shoot, everyone has their roles. There's kind of like a script that people have to follow, and but there's improv. So you have to support yourself of the creative input and the technical skills that other people are putting in order to improvise this thing, which then turns out to be the film. Um, and for sure, if you put that in the context of the process of making For Her, the short film, it's incredible the team that was forged within it. And it's a combination of me at the time I was 20, bunch of 30-year-olds, 350-year-olds. Like, really, it's a combination of people. Um, but the trust bonds that were created by this 4-day shoot, which is, many months of pre-production and many more of post-production, but all the company was only together for 4 days. And the support network that now I feel with the people who were in that film shoot is stronger than any other support network I have, say, besides my family. They have become advisors, friends, um, and it's two-sided because they believed in me, then they saw me perform, and now they trust me. So you have to give and build that trust, and then when the project happens and if it goes well, then those bonds stay. So it's really big creative projects are a great way to build support networks. It's
You
like
said
being in a
some.
play.
Yes, I definitely, I'll second that. And having done a play, was it a few years back now, but we were 25, 22 actors, and everybody behind the scenes as well. And the amount of rehearsals you are together to make it happen. And in the shows, you feel like if you're family, and when it all finishes and everybody goes their own way, you go, wait, where are we all going? And it feels an empty feeling of like, wait, how do I, like, family, wait.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. It's one another of my teachers who I still um, contact a lot once said that she wanted to build experiences for her students, not learning or anything, just experiences that they would actually remember. Because when you go through an experience together, it's like when you get caught in the rain. You know, you will remember an afternoon so much more with a group of friends if you got caught in the rain or something extraordinary happened where you had to solve perhaps some kind of discomfort, like being in the middle of the ocean in a boat, or rain, or even an earthquake. One of the strongest community builders in Mexico City, unfortunately, and I don't wish an earthquake on anyone, but it's Mexico's earthquakes. Like, it just brings the Mexican community so much closer together because everyone has gone through this really intense experience. So if you can go through experiences that are not traumatizing, like earthquakes, but that are strong enough to imprint your memory and your emotions and your energy. You're putting so much energy into, and synchronicity. You have to be synchronized with everyone because everyone has to be in the loop of what's happening. Even at a neurological basis, that just builds community and builds support. And then, these can be people you can call anytime because there is that uh, reproducity,
Reciprocal. Yeah.
reciprocal nature of the relationship.
Yep. Yeah.
um,
That's true. You mentioned about belief. So when people believe in you, then you work on the project, and then it happens, and then it builds trust. Now go
mhm.
back to people believing in you, but you've also said that the reason why people wanted to work with you is because you believed in yourself, you were passionate. How did you come to that? Or can you
How did
think?
I, sorry?
Come to that. So, how do you grow your self belief?
My answer to that, I think, goes to my parents. It goes to growing up in an environment where I truly always felt like what I did was worth it. So the little place I would put up when I was a kid were the place. And if I anything that kind of had creative inspiration from my side, or ideas I wanted to pursue, um, my parents were very supportive of. And I think that gave me a kind of confidence. Some of it just comes from within you, but I think it played a very big role um, in the confidence then I developed on my own. Um, on top of, so to say that that's the foundation level. But when I got to Hong Kong, I couldn't speak English very well, uh, and I sort of retreated a little bit and observed, and I wasn't as confident as I was when I graduated high school or when I began doing this. And you would be surprised, but one of the biggest things that built that confidence was training a sport called surf ski, which is an open water kayak where you have to go with really strong winds and a lot of rain in the middle of the ocean, and no one's going to save you, and you have to push through. And I was really involved with that in the last 2 years of my high school. And I think that changed me a lot because even though it's not the same type of confidence, I mean, if I could cross the ocean, I could do anything, you know. I really, or things that were scary were not as scary as this other thing. Um, so I think sometimes we can overlook how transferable this confidence can be. Um,
I was going to say all skills are transferable, and when we work on one part of ourselves, we tend to not realize how it actually affects everything else. Everything has a ripple effect. And so if you're more
100%.
confident in one area, they will grow in the other places in unseen ways. But yeah.
Yeah. And it's about, I guess it is something that has been intrinsic to my personality since I was little, but it's not, it can be attained. And it's about, I guess we all have it, but we sometimes lose it, which is it's constantly looking for challenges and looking for things that are put you in not necessarily the most comfortable position. Um, and that I think has been a starting point to lead me into experiences like the surf ski training or others where I develop more confidence. But it's about not stepping outside of your comfort zone, but yes, just constantly being curious about things that are difficult.
Pushing your
Um,
boundaries.
uh-huh. And that I mean the earliest memory I have of this is climbing trees and having the freedom to do so.
It's
Because
fun. I'll
really,
second that as well.
right? Like if you the higher the tree, then the more curious you are to climb it, and if you're allowed to explore those risks when you're little, I think that really leaves a mark. Now, in a more practical basis, because obviously, say someone's listening to this and they're like, "Oh, but I can't go back in my past and climb more trees." Um, I still find myself working that muscle, like the confidence muscle of how do I get people interested in the project that I'm doing. So for to give you a practical example, currently the Tinta project is a physical theater production that's based on, well, it's written and directed by the lead actress of my short film. And this is an example of how I was supported by other people, and then I became the support. So the director was in quarantine, and she called me one day and said, "Hey, I have this collection of poems, and kind of I want to write a play with it, or I've been writing a play." And I said to her, "Okay, write a play. We look at the script, and if I like it, we produce it." And from there, I think until a few months ago, but it was 5 or 6 chunky months of me being the person my teacher had been. And I know then there was a shift where now the director is fully empowered and confident with her project. And I know that then she will take someone else and bring them on board on that confidence. So it kind of becomes a chain. Um, but I digress. What I was going to say is that to build this project, I've had to put together a team again, like we did with the short film, but now another team of creatives and convincing people that this is a project worth doing. Uh, we're still in a startup sort of passion project status, so it's a lot about convincing people to do this for passion and not for money. So it's a you have to really be in love with the project you're doing, and the other person needs to love it equally. um, and I still, at the beginning of the summer, building the team, felt super nervous. I was gonna go on a call and pitch, and I would rush, and but the more you do it, the easier it gets. So by now, I can pitch it in 5 minutes, and but the first 3 months, I was like, okay, another pitch. I need all the energy from the world.
Yeah, it's like a big muscle that you train every single day
It
or every
really
time.
is. Yeah, it completely is. It's like studying a script for a play. You can't expect it to just come out perfectly the first time.
What you said also, you were saying when you said you digress about support, confidence going around and creating a chain. It is true though, when people have shown support in you, you want to give it back because of how it. I'll talk personally from my experience, and you can let me know your thoughts.
Hmm.
Um, but it feels so good to feel supported that you want to share that feeling with somebody else and give that support to somebody else, and then they will do the same to somebody else, either back to you or, and then it's,
Mm.
and that's not particularly to show support for yourself, but it's to share what you felt, because it has been so beneficial to you that you do want to share it.
100%. And as well, it's in a way, it's a positive cycle where we can build both emotional and professional, but let's say now we're focusing more on professional relationships that are healthy and that build an industry that is not toxic. Because, of course, the contrary to this, and it's so common in the art industry, name it film or theater, is competition and putting people down. And oh, I only work with these people and I don't bring you in, I don't bring anyone in because I'm so protective about my privileged position. um, and if you have such a closed environment, then there is no space for new talent to come up and youth to sort of enter the industry. So I really see it as a vision of me and by extension my company to put forward projects that have this let's call it value system in mind, where always, doesn't matter what scale of the project, we're bringing people up, like we're bringing student interns, and we're bringing, if someone has an idea like the director did, and they're willing to put in the work, let's produce that type of project. Because when the artist's heart and soul is in it and they have a backing support, that's when the best pieces of art get made because everyone really has their whole energy and they're fully present. So you get both. You get quality work out, you create communities that are healthy and that feel empowered and generate great friendships, and people are just happier and they're working in what they love doing in an environment that they love. So that's my idealist like utopia. But
Now,
um,
we had a conversation, we met up a while back, and we talked about that and the fact that it's about creating project, but it's the values that you bring during that creation. And yeah, it's not because things are done a certain way that they need to keep being done that way. And it's what way do we want, especially if you're creating something from scratch, right? With your company, you've made it all up with your energy, your time, the connections, and you're creating from nothing. So why not create something you want to be working in the long term that has the values and the energy that you want to be working with in 5, 10 years, or whichever project you take on or whatever it morphs into, but keep that going.
yeah, and it's the another, to quote another professor, it's really the process that is the thing. It's the months and months you spend in pre and post production. It's the hours you spend on a Zoom call planning the call sheet of your next shoot. That's where you're spending your life in. It's not the 30 minutes you get to watch the film or to share it. And I mean, of course, the result is amazing, but if you're in the industry, the process is your job. The process is the piece. So it's the most important part. And to create a healthy environment for it and a supportive environment should be the aim of the industry and of policymakers and anything around it is really create. No, seriously, I think there
I
needs
agree.
to be an aim.
I'm laughing because I agree. I'm completely on the same side. Just like, yes, it's common sense.
Yeah,
It's like, duh, yes.
and of education, and you can extend it if there is a feeling of support and empowerment. Societies just thrive at whatever scale you put it.
Yeah.
But that's a dream.
Well, that's how you make real things happen. You dream it, you work at it, and you make it work. I keep saying this, like, I I know it's possible. I don't know exactly how. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
exactly it's going to look like, but I know deep inside me it's possible, and I'm working towards it to make it happen. Um,
Yeah,
and all the naysayers around me that tell me that's not how it's done, that's not how things work, I was like, I don't care. It's like, you don't get it. Like, there's another way, and I can't explain it, but it's
yeah,
following that. And it
yeah.
starts. Yeah, go ahead.
A note on support as well that just popped in my head. I think I've had to learn, and it will be a lifelong process, how to receive support and how to give it in the best. I guess tactful is the word I would use. Um, it can get really tricky. Help is not an easy thing, and relationships are muddy. So I've had situations where someone's helping you out, and therefore you feel like you owe them something, or you need to treat people in different ways. And like, do you pay for their coffee? Do you not pay for their coffee? Like, there are even day to day things. Um, the importance of being able to develop a friendship besides an agenda.
Mm.
Um, and so I suppose the dynamics of support and the skills one has to develop to generate the most effective support network is a lifelong practice, because it's not just, okay, I'm here, help me. There's a big difference between help and aid and genuine support, because in support, the supporter is tagging onto the supportee, and both are actually going forward. And even if it looks like one of them is supporting the other, there's always a trade-off. And that's good. Everyone should benefit, even if it's joy.
Yeah, very true.
Mhm.
It's it was to name Tony Robbins, who had this thing because he had it was a financial limiting belief where he absolutely wanted to pay for the meals or coffees of everybody he met, just because it was proving to himself that he could. And he was meeting up with somebody else, and I think it was the second time they meeting up, and the person he was meeting wanted to pay, and Tony Robbins didn't let him, and so he paid. And the second time around, the guy was like, he stopped him and he goes, why would you want to remove the joy of me offering you this meal? And that's when he was like, step back, he was like, oh, it's not just about like I can do this, but it's also about, like you said, just joy. Allowing, even though you can do something, it's not because you should, but um, letting the other person do it because it will bring them joy. And
Yeah.
then it goes back to communication. Um,
100%. I was gonna say that.
knowing to say what you need in a in a kind and caring, open way, expressing yourself, not sort of expecting the other person to know what they should be doing or you need or you'd want them to be doing and never saying anything. And even those can be uncomfortable conversations. But if you say, this is what I need from you, and it's like you said at the beginning, right? It's your aunt listening to you without saying anything, but just you talking on for a long time because that's what you need, that's the support you need. Or whatever form it is, understanding that and being present for that person in the way that they do need. But you need to be able to, well, either one, know the person or the person saying, like, this is what I need from you right now. Can you give it to me? Yes or no? And then opening up
Mm,
afterwards if you know you're in a safe space to do so.
yeah, for sure. And knowing, being careful with not abusing people's support, and knowing who can give what and when. So, for example, if someone is helping you with the production of a project and you're becoming close with them, you need to be able to know when you unload, say, emotional, when you need emotional support. Are they the right person at that particular moment in time, or is it going to sort of trouble the other support relationship you have? It's a very support then becomes really a management term, like it's it's a business practice at this level. It's a way in which you, um not because you're managing the other person, but you need to be able to manage yourself within that support relationship,
Mm.
and you can easily make mistakes and need to learn with them very quickly because people's trust, once you break it, is really hard to rebuild. So support networks are can be the strongest thing you can have, but also the most delicate one. So you need to be having someone support doesn't mean that you have their unconditional support.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so we're coming up to the time. Is there something in particular that you like to share on support as well to sort of wrap it up as well?
I think I've said everything I wanted to say.
Thanks. Uh, I wanted to ask, is For Her available to be seen publicly or is it on a paid version, the short that you did?
Yeah, it actually is currently on a student competition on a platform called Watch Argo. So
Okay.
WATCH,
I'll
Argo
get the link from you.
ARGO. Yeah, and you can pay. I think it's like 0.99 cents US dollar, something like that, and you get to watch the whole competition of short films.
Okay.
That's until end of October, so it's currently there.
Okay.
Um, and you can also go to the Tinta Instagram, which we'll also put in the description.
Yep.
Especially if you're in Hong Kong, A Woman on the Moon, which is the physical theater production I'm working on, is premiering on December 1st. And it's going to be with original live music, an incredible cast of performers slash movers slash dancers, um, and it's proving to be a very interesting interdisciplinary project, fully, absolutely fully standing on the foundation of supportive people. So
Yeah.
I guess it's a live example of the product that support chains can create. Um, so if you're in Hong Kong, will be lovely to have you there.
And do you want to share your Instagram as well that I can add so that people can find you?
Yes, we can
Okay.
put it also in the
Yep.
description. Is Val Riquelme, but that's kind of hard to spell.
It will be a direct link on the description of the show notes. So anybody who's listening or watching, you can find it there. I want to say
Amazing.
sorry?
Amazing.
I wanted to say a big thank you for coming along and sharing about support. It's conversations that I truly enjoy, just to hear how support has come up in other people's life, for inspirations, for ideas for me personally, so how to give it back, and also um, just there's so many different cultures, traditions around the world, and learning from others is just a joy. So thank you so much for hopping on and talking with me.
No, thank you for having me on board, and I hope to see you in person soon.
Well, you mentioned London, so that might be an easier version than Hong Kong at the moment because, yeah, I won't be back in Hong Kong for quite a few months, just yet. So,
Fair enough. Well,
but
I
yeah,
shall be there in January, so I'll
good
see
work.
you in London then.
All right. Uh,
Amazing.
yes. Thank you. All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.